Story 1. I am from the Bahamas. To all the tourists arriving on the cruises to Nassau, you may be tempted to visit the first beach you see that is right downtown. That is where most people go, but it is, unfortunately, the worst beach on the island. A clear sign is that you will not see any locals there. The other beaches are much prettier, but they do not have amenities like a bar and lounge chairs. They are more natural. If you ever get lost, just head north. Story 2. Don't get out of the Jeep to take a better picture of the lion. Lions are fast, and no, he is not sleeping even though his eyes look closed. Additionally, you cannot swim or whitewater raft in bodies of water that have crocodiles or hippos. Story 3. Don't mess with the king's guards, especially those on horseback. It's a myth that they aren't allowed to move. Story 4. Pacific Northwest of the United States. Do not disregard the beach and surf warnings. Sneaker waves, which are random waves with significantly more volume of water that come much higher up the beach, are common here. Every year, people die from getting dragged out to sea or by heavy floating logs that can come to rest on top of them once the wave recedes. Be careful around the ocean. And for the love of God, stay on the correct side of the safety fence at the cliffs. Story 5. Based on my experiences visiting national parks across the United States, do not approach wild animals. It is not a petting zoo. Story 6. Norway. Do not trek in the mountains without proper clothing, such as a jacket, layers, and wool. Having a tour guide and food is essential. For example, going to Pulpit Rock in sandals or heels is not advisable. Consider visiting the larger cities during the off-season. In summer, cities like Bergen, Stavanger, and Oslo become crowded with tourists, and you will spend a lot of time waiting in line for sightseeing. Explore the villages, as there is limited opportunity to see the northern lights on the west coast of Norway. However, there is still a wealth of beautiful scenery, beaches, and nature to enjoy. Story 7. Vermont is a popular tourist destination in the fall, when people enjoy watching the leaves change color. Please do not block roads and bridges for the perfect photo. This is a common issue. Avoid driving on private property without permission. Many rural residents have reported encounters with groups of people wandering around their homes and barns for pictures. Remember, it is not an amusement park. Story 8. Do not climb or step on the wet rocks near the ocean. The Atlantic Ocean is unpredictable and powerful. If those rocks are wet on a sunny day, it is because a wave recently crashed over them. It will happen again. The waves can pull you out and slam your body against the large rocks you wanted to climb on. No one will save you. The search and rescue mission is only to recover your body. We will not build a fence around the ocean, so stop demanding it every time a tourist thinks the signs are suggestions instead of warnings. Read the signs and use common sense. Story 9. Atlantic Canadian here. Do not walk on the shiny black rocks near the water's edge. They are extremely slippery, and if it's a rocky section of coast, you may get hurt if you slip and fall in. This is particularly relevant at Peggy's Cove. Also, if you are anywhere on the Bay of Fundy and the tour guide says to be back by a certain time or you will get trapped by the tide, take this seriously. You will get trapped by the tide. The water level can rise by 30 to 45 feet depending on where you are on the bay. Story 10. Canada, feed the wildlife. You would be surprised how many tourists get out of their vehicles and try to approach a bear, elk, moose, or deer. Story 11. Don't pick up a baby wombat and take it away from its mother. The Australian man with her should have been jailed. The American woman who did it should never be allowed back. People who touch or interfere with our native wildlife are not welcome here. Story 12. I am from Colombia. Please do not mention Pablo Escobar, drug trafficking, or cocaine. Believe it or not, cocaine is not a popular drug in Colombia, and we dislike being associated with drug trafficking. Colombians have a great sense of humor, but this is one topic we do not joke about. Story 13. Don't hike Mount Washington if you are not an experienced hiker, and never hike it alone. That rock pile can be dangerous. Story 14. Stand on the left side of the escalators, stop in the middle of the street, or gather on corners talking loudly. Do not imitate our accents or quote the phrase, You sound like you're from London. Additionally, please refrain from waving your phone around in the street, as someone on a bike might snatch it from you. Story 15. Feed the seagulls. They are not cute, and I assure you they are not starving. They are a nuisance. You feed one, and numerous others will surround you. This means that the people around you who are trying to enjoy the beach are more likely to be affected by them. The more they are fed by tourists, the bolder they become and will aggressively try to take food from people. From all coastal Floridians, please do not feed the seagulls. Story 16. Don't go out on the ice unless you've confirmed it's safe. Assume that the ice on a river is never safe. It's still considered impaired driving if it's a boat, snowmobile, or all-terrain vehicle. Anything with a motor requires a designated driver. Don't tell me about how you used to come here with your family and how it's a shame that small towns are changing. We live here. We need shops, infrastructure, and jobs just like you. If you want pristine wilderness, go camping. Story 17. Do not come to Australia and call someone a derogatory term. You are not an Australian. We watch enough American television to associate your accent with your culture, so you will likely receive the same reaction to saying it here as you would at home. Story 18. I'm American, but I believe I can also speak for my Canadian cousins on this one. Do not get too close to Canadian geese, also known as the cobra chicken. If you must, make sure to record it to share online. Story 19. For Americans or anyone else in Ireland, do not claim to be truly Irish and avoid offering your solutions to the complex and often frustrating political issues on the island. Story 20. If you come to Nashville, wear cowboy hats and boots because you want to not to fit in. I have lived here for 5 years and have yet to see a local wearing a cowboy hat or boots, unless they were going to a bar with that vibe. That look represents the industry, not necessarily the lifestyle. Story 21. Gulf Coast, US. Do not plan on dieting here. Jambalaya, boudin, etouffee, bisque, and crawfish will break you. Enjoy. Story 22. Poland here. Do not assume the weather based on the time of year. Only summers are somewhat consistent. Check the weather forecast and then prepare for any eventuality. Story 23. Malaysian here. Do not bring any type of drugs into the country, not even marijuana. A small amount is not considered a minor offense. Malaysia is one of the countries that enforces the death penalty for drug trafficking, and we often make an example of offenders. You will face serious consequences. Story 24. If you are in a car and the police stop you for any reason, you need to roll down the window to talk to them. Do not get out of the car unless they tell you to. Story 25. I am from a Spanish-speaking country, and for some reason, some English-speaking tourists think we do not understand what they are saying. So you should be mindful of your words. Some of us do understand what you are saying about us or our country. Story 26. Aloha. I am a Hawaii resident. Ocean conditions may not be what they seem. Look for and pay attention to all posted signs at the beach or in the water. If you are going to a beach without a lifeguard and you do not know what a posted sign means, look it up. A posted sign you do not recognize might indicate a recent shark sighting nearby, and you do not want to enter that water, especially if it is murky. Sharks hunt in murky water. If the water is brown or it has recently rained, do not go in. The best thing to do is choose beaches where lifeguards are present. Do not kick or touch coral. Do not use sunscreen in the water unless it is reef safe. Do not harass fish or touch turtles, dolphins, or seals, as these actions are illegal and could lead to fines or arrest. Always listen to the lifeguards. Do not hike beyond your capacity. Stay on the trails and follow instructions on all posted signs. Try local restaurants and food trucks. Shop in local stores. Respect the culture and recognize that things move more slowly here. Do not drive as if you are on the mainland. People here let other drivers in. If that bothers you, turn on a local Hawaiian radio station and relax. Story 27. India. Slumdog tourism, where some individuals partake in guided tours of the Mumbai slums, intruding into homes without notice, taking pictures, donating some candies worth of coffee to the children, and taking photos with captions like, "No running water, no electricity, no gaming console," but still they have the best smiles. I thought they were poor but ended up realizing I was poor. This behavior reflects a savior complex that is unhelpful and misplaced. What you are doing is not much different from the human zoos that were prevalent in Europe until the 1960s. I've heard similar situations occur in Brazil with favela tours. Imagine if tourists from India and China visited Detroit or Gary. Story 28. Don't go hiking when the temperature is in the high 80s. The sun is too hot, and it feels like 100 degrees. Tourists can suffer from heat exhaustion. Story 29. As a Canadian, please stay away from our bears. Occasionally, I hear a story about someone who got too close to a bear, resulting in the bear being killed. We love our wildlife here, but locals understand not to interfere with it. Visitors, however, do not always share this caution. Story 30. Don't go on dates with that girl you connected with on your trip. You'll be in danger or get robbed. Colombia. Story 31. Hollywood Walk of Fame, or Hollywood in general, is not a pleasant experience and has an unpleasant odor. Visitors may encounter pickpocketing or harassment. Story 32. Hawaii. Do not disturb protected wildlife, such as monk seals and sea turtles. Not only will you be arrested and have people take pictures of you to post online, but you may also face consequences from locals. Story 33. Don't drive down a questionable road just because a mapping service suggests it is passable. It cannot distinguish between roads that require a four-wheel drive and those that are suitable for a regular car. Story 34. New Zealander here. Don't blow on the pie. It's a crime punishable by deportation. In New Zealand, pies are popular and are almost always savory, ranging from classic mince and cheese to bacon and egg. If you ask for an apple pie, we might look at you funny. Story 35. Do not relieve yourself on a grave. An influencer came to a carnival and shared that she had to go urgently. So she went into a cemetery and relieved herself on a grave. Spoilers. She was American. Story 36. New York City. Do not get tricked by the many scams targeting tourists, such as posing for pictures with characters, selling mixtape CDs, offering fake Buddhist charms from impersonators, and wallet scams. Stay alert and aware of your surroundings. New York City is exciting, enjoyable, lively, and generally safe. So be cautious and you will avoid being taken advantage of. Story 37. Australia. If you are driving and a kangaroo jumps in front of you, do not swerve. The kangaroo may survive the hit, and even if it does not, you will. But if you swerve, you may not survive a collision with a tree or an oncoming car. If you must slow down for a kangaroo, do not slam on the brakes. Australian drivers tend to follow closely, even in 110 kilometers per hour zones, so you could be rear-ended by another vehicle. Story 38. Anywhere in the United States, do not approach the wildlife. They do not care that you just want a photo. Bison can be dangerous. They are not tame or part of a zoo exhibit. They are wild animals and will act as wild animals do. You risk injuring or killing yourself and your family, and you will have only yourself to blame. Story 39. Don't mess with the sun. It's different here in Florida and can absolutely harm you, especially if you are near water. The clouds do not help. Some of my worst sunburns have come from cloudy days in early April when it's only 81 degrees. Use sunscreen, swim shirts, hats, and sunglasses. Always. By the time you feel yourself burning, you are already in trouble and facing a week of discomfort and possibly a risk of skin cancer. Story 40. Maui residents appreciate your contribution to our economy. However, we do not appreciate the entitled attitude or the expectation that your vacation means you do not have to clean up after yourself or that we are here to serve as your tour guide. Story 41. Scotland. No, Americans, you are not Scottish, and we think it's strange when you say that. I don't care about what clan your Scottish great-grandmother was from. In fact, just leave the clan, tartan, and heritage questions at home. Most of it is fabricated. Don't try to imitate the accent, especially by repeating what we say and laughing at it because you think it's amusing. You would think how rude this is would be obvious, yet It's generally acceptable to start chatting with random strangers. Scots are often more open and welcoming than in some other parts of the United Kingdom, so please don't freeze or panic if a random person on the train leans over and asks where you are from, or if a tipsy old man starts talking at the bus stop. Most Scots are delighted to be visited by respectful tourists. They don't mean to make you feel awkward. Yes, Glasgow and other parts of Scotland used to have poor reputations for violence and knife crimes. Yes, you are safe pretty much everywhere in Scotland. No, Scots generally don't appreciate constant insinuations that we are all mad, drunken, violent individuals who will attack you. Story 42. Don't stop in the middle of the sidewalk to do anything. Move to the side. We have things to do in New York. Story 43. Not from Japan, but I have been here long enough to have something to share. Sometimes I see people use chopsticks to pass food between individuals, chopsticks to chopsticks. This has a special meaning in Japan, typically done during cremation ceremonies to pass the bones of the deceased between surviving friends and relatives. There are individuals here who will react strongly if they see you do this, especially if they have recently lost someone. Others may not say anything but may be equally upset beneath the surface. Always pass food on a plate, never from chopsticks to chopsticks. Story 44. Although this is true for any place, do not keep your passport in the same location as your wallet, and do not keep all your cash in your wallet. Have a separate spending wallet. Definitely, do not use a wallet attached to a phone and disable Face Unlock. Story 45. Approach wildlife with caution. That is not a teddy bear. It is 900 pounds of fur, aggression, and claws. You do not need to stop on the side of the road to take a picture. Story 46. Feed the birds, specifically the ibis. Do not do it. You risk being verbally berated and potentially physically abused by local residents. It's a well-known rule to avoid feeding them, and there are signs indicating this everywhere. Just don't. Not even once, not for a social media stream or a video to share with others. Never feed the ibis. Story 47. If you are visiting Canada, especially outside of Alberta, avoid boasting about being American and how great things are back home. Story 48. Don't listen to people who say the CN Tower and Niagara Falls are overrated. They have just seen them many times. Story 49. If you want to visit Amish country, please note that the residents are not paid actors playing dress-up. It is their way of life, and they do not like having their pictures taken, much less posing with you for a selfie. Please drive carefully, as there are usually a few car and horse and buggy fatalities each year, and it is typically a car driven by a tourist. Story 50. Any urban American city. Do not tell strangers what to do unless you are willing to escalate the situation to violence. Whether it involves smoking in a non-smoking area, littering, failing to return a shopping cart, or asking people to turn their music down, it doesn't matter if you are right or not. Most of us are polite enough, but there are definitely individuals who intentionally break minor social norms because they want an excuse to fight and hope someone challenges them. Confronting them is unlikely to shame them into behaving better. It is more likely that you will just end up getting hurt. Story 51. Canada is a vast country. It takes days to travel from coast to coast, so plan accordingly. Please do not refer to us as Americans either. Story 52. Go hiking without a map. Many tourists get lost or go missing on hiking trails here, given our 5 national parks in the state. Story 53. Do not swim at unsupervised beaches in Australia or New Zealand. Stay between the flags. Tourists drown frequently at our beaches. Also, do not assume our sun is the same as yours. You will get burned. Buy local 50 SPF sunscreen and use it all day, every day. It's not just the ozone. We are actually closer to the sun than the northern hemisphere. Story 54. Oregon, USA. Do not go on a hike in an unfamiliar area without experience in hiking. You may get lost, and although the scenery is lush, there is little to eat in a coniferous forest. Story 55. Stop coming to the 9/11 memorial and taking smiling selfies or throwing peace signs. Be respectful of what happened there. It is a memorial, not a backdrop for your new profile picture. Story 56. Ignore sensible advice. There is a reason why even Australians do not want to engage with our wildlife. We know exactly what will happen. Also, sunscreen is your friend here. Story 57. In the Caribbean, specifically in the United States Virgin Islands, it is considered extremely rude to walk around town in a bathing suit or shirtless. Story 58. New Orleans. If anyone tells you they know where you got your shoes, tell them you got them on your feet. Don't pick up anything on the ground. I don't care if it's a $100 bill. Don't wear open-toed shoes in the quarter. Story 59. Never walk around close to the edge of any freshwater body at dawn or dusk. This is prime hunting time. Recently, a small woman walking her dog at dusk was taken by an alligator. If the water is fresh or sometimes brackish, assume that an alligator lives there. Story 60. Do not bring drugs here. We have warned you multiple times and will prosecute if the amount is large enough, potentially administering the death penalty. Story 61. Don't swim outside the flags. Don't assume your boots don't have spiders in them. Don't interfere with baby wombats. Don't bring divisive American politics to our shores. Don't be offended if someone calls you an offensive term. It's generally a term of endearment unless said with malice. Story 62. I was at a 4th of July gathering for the public. There was a creek with many kids cooling off in the water. As I approached the creek, I saw multiple copperhead snakes swimming among the swimmers and along the banks. I informed a few people near me, and they just said, "Oh, okay," and continued to let their kids swim. Story 63. Do not forget to try some of the highly regarded Mexican restaurants. Yes, the beaches are great, but the food is what people often overlook. Story 64. Yes, every glitzy casino here has a rundown arcade with the bare minimum to keep a child occupied. That does not mean your child belongs in Las Vegas. This city also has a high rate of human trafficking. I should not care about your family more than you do. Story 65. Until late 2028 at the earliest, please do not visit us, purchase from us, or trust us for anything. We are trying to resolve some issues, and many have requested this. We must confront the situation. Consequences be damned until things improve. Sincerely, an American. Story 66. Do not go to the tribal beach. It is clearly marked and is private. Thank you. Port Madison Reservation, Suquamish, Washington. Story 67. Orlando here. Hey tourists. Try your best to schedule the expensive theme park trip in the fall or winter. Summers here are brutal, and it's rainy season. A torrential downpour hits every day, usually between 3 and 5 p.m. Prepare the kids for the rampant and excessive merchandising that will make them want to buy everything. It's just too much. It's downright overwhelming. Tell them you'll buy one souvenir each and give them a price limit. Finally, take a day off from the theme parks and go to the beach. It's worth the 1-hour drive, and it's a wholesome, affordable, and active day. Bring sunscreen. Story 68. Do not enter the water near the Santa Monica Pier, as it has the highest bacterial count in California. I do not even walk there. Story 69. Do not leave anything visible in your car, and you might not want to linger in your vehicle when you arrive at your destination. Also, keep your head on a swivel. Just keep driving through. Do not stop. Story 70. Do not approach a moose. Moose appear docile from a distance, but that is a misconception. They may charge if you get too close. Story 71. Don't go too far up Market Street and definitely don't go too far down Broad Street in either direction. In fact, if you're not from around here, it is best to stay in Center City and enjoy the historical sites. Story 72. I live near Niagara Falls. Do yourself a favor and eat your meals about 30 minutes outside of town. Everything is significantly marked up in town. If you plan to stay at a hotel in town, at least make it worth your while and get a falls view room. They are lit up at night and look amazing. Story 73. America, do not travel with large amounts of cash. Civil forfeiture is a reality. It is legal, and especially if you are not a citizen, you may never get your money back, even if you are not charged with a crime. I believe there are travel advisories issued regarding this as well. Story 74. Pick up a random individual. They have been causing more harm to people than gun violence lately here. I suppose that would still be contributing to the local ecosystem. Story 75. Do not stand on the granite outcrops at the edge of the ocean or fish there. We experience large waves, and you risk the lives of emergency workers who will attempt to save you or recover your body. Story 76. Do not visit the gum wall. It is unappealing. Explore the rest of Pike Place Market, buy fresh flowers, and watch fish flying through the air. Just avoid the gum wall. Story 77. I agree with many of the comments I see. Please consider canceling your visit to the United States. Do not support American tourism until we can address the current issues in Washington, D.C. Seriously, if you are Hispanic, it is advisable not to come here. There is a real risk of being detained at the border or elsewhere. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has a policy of detaining individuals first and figuring things out later. Many people who were here legally have been affected, and some are still locked away. Story 78. Do not drive on our narrow, snowy roads without experience. Do not climb our mountains without a guide or without doing proper research beforehand. Do not trespass in people's gardens or take pictures through their windows. Do not take pictures of other people's children. Do not stop your car in the middle of the road to take pictures of reindeer. Do not touch the reindeer. Story 79. Do not climb the fences. They are there for a reason. Frequently, that reason is to keep you safe from what is on the other side. Story 80. Didn't visit at all if you're not white or have ever posted anything critical of the regime on social media. Story 81. As a resident of South Florida, I advise you not to swim or allow your children or pets to swim in any freshwater lakes, canals, or ponds. I have warned many new residents and tourists about the dangers. There are alligators, venomous snakes, and harmful bacteria present in all freshwater in Florida. They can pose a threat to you, your children, or your pets. Swimming should only be done in pools or in the ocean. Story 82. Scotland has taken on more than it can handle regarding tourism. We are a small country, but more people visit each year, and we lack the infrastructure to support the millions of tourists we receive annually. Some parts of the country have turned into theme parks, and small highland and island communities are being affected by vacation rentals and second homes purchased by wealthy non-nationals who can outbid local families by millions of pounds. The government allowed this to happen for years, only intervening when it was too late. One of my biggest frustrations is the North Coast 500 road trip route. Yes, it is beautiful, dramatic, wild, and breathtaking. I understand the appeal, but many problems have arisen from an irresponsible marketing campaign directing hordes of tourists to one of the most remote and sparsely populated areas of Scotland. I wish people would stay away for the sake of the locals. I'm tired of reading about tourists disrespecting the beaches due to a lack of toilets, getting into disputes with locals over parking in private driveways because of insufficient parking spaces, and emptying chemical toilets into gardens due to inadequate waste disposal facilities. They pay upwards of £40 for fish and chips, which raises concerns about whether locals can afford to eat out anymore. Tourists often cause disruptions when driving large motorhomes down narrow roads, which only complicates things for those with jobs and schools to attend. It's the same issues every single season. There aren't enough police or medical facilities in the far north to ensure the health and safety of visitors alongside the local population. The roads in the far north were not built to handle the heavy traffic from hundreds of thousands of cars, so they are deteriorating as well. The situation is a disaster and is completely out of control. There are many places in Scotland where you can enjoy a relaxing visit to beautiful spots known primarily to locals without causing distress to anyone. Aberdeenshire is one of my favorite parts of the country that seems overlooked by overseas visitors. There are also Angus, Moray, the Borders, Dumfries and Galloway, and East Perthshire. I wouldn't have said this a while ago, but Dundee is definitely on the rise and worth visiting too. Story 83. Do not carve your initials into trees, park boardwalks, or First Nation petroglyphs. Also, refrain from stacking rocks in rivers, especially at the event horizon of waterfalls such as Multnomah Falls. Story 84. Never wear a MAGA hat. Do not urinate in canals if you do not know how to swim. You will not find marriage material in the red light district. Triples are not like Bud Light. Story 85. Approach geese. Living in Canada is always entertaining, especially watching people approach them like pets, only to realize they can be aggressive. Story 86. Steak may seem affordable for every meal, but resist and eat some vegetables. Mix up your choices a bit. Story 87. Check the current ocean forecast before jumping into the ocean. Miami's waters can have strong currents, jellyfish, or other surprises. Story 88. Don't feed the bears or let your dogs loose to chase elk and deer in the forest. No selfies with moose or buffalo. Your rental four-wheel drive will not magically allow you to go near the posted speed limit in winter conditions. We all hope to be the first in line at a stoplight so we can spot you barreling toward us in our rearview mirrors. We would prefer to receive a fine while driving away instead of being slammed into at 40 miles per hour over the speed limit. Speed limits are for perfect dry roads. They installed a roundabout in a ski town where I sometimes went to pick up prescriptions. The parking lot was right at the roundabout. It's entertaining to sit there in winter and watch tourists try to defy centrifugal force on ice. I should go there with a camera one day. Story 89. Don't get offended if you are asked if you want a three-way. We are inviting you to dinner at a local restaurant. Story 90. I'm from Vancouver. Don't visit the Capilano Suspension Bridge. It's overpriced. If you want a suspension bridge experience for free in the same canyon, visit the Lynn Valley Suspension Bridge, which is less than a kilometer away. Story 91. Don't be careless and start a fire during fire season when it is prohibited. The same applies to fireworks. I am in Colorado. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.